Welcome to the first Game Day U of the season, Oklahoma's only football pregame show on TV. I'm your host, Kaylee Jo Hommel, and beside me are Emily LeBeth, Aiden Tyler, and Britton Ross. OU football opens its season under the Friday night lights for the first time ever at Gaylord Memorial Stadium. And for their last time at the stadium, the Sooners showed out in the spring game. OU fans and former players got to see their first sneak peek at their new SEC squad back in April. Quarterback Jackson Arnold showed off a new relationship early on with this 64-yard touchdown pass to Purdue transfer Deion Burks. This is a name you're definitely going to get used to hearing this season. And this team can do a lot more than just air it out as running back Gavin Sawchuk pounds one into the end zone. But it wasn't long before Arnold found Burks again with this 50-yard touchdown pass. And the offense ultimately won over the defense 65-58. After a disappointing performance from Jackson Arnold in the Alamo Bowl, throwing 3 interceptions, this connection with Deion Burks is something Sooner fans will be watching for after that first snap on Owen Field.
Yeah, Kaylee Jo, you mentioned him earlier, Sawchuk, OU's #1 guy, but redshirt freshman Caleb Hicks also emerged, rushed for 62 yards and a 30-yard touchdown, filling the absence of an injured Devontae Barnes. But he'll be healthy tonight to make an impact.
Yeah, and the Sooner defense looked great in the spring game, but especially the defensive line. The D combined for 8 tackles for loss and showed promise for a unit that finished 7th in tackles for loss last season, despite having the 77th total defense in the country.
Aiden, I'm going to take it up a level in the defense. This linebacker group is the deepest that it has been in the Brent Venables era. The main rotation of 4 linebackers combined for 20 tackles in the spring game. The Sooners have a real shot at bringing that Buckus Award back to Norman this season.
I totally agree with you on that, Britton. But now let's switch from Flashback Friday to the future. There's a whole lot of new when it comes to this OU team, starting QB, conference, and offensive coordinator. And Jackson Arnold is confident in the OC ahead of the season.
Coach Luttrell was there. He got there when I got there, when I early enrolled in spring. And just getting to know him then throughout that summer, throughout that spring ball that summer, this season, and now this past off season, I've gotten really close with Coach Luttrell. I trust the calls that he makes, decisions that he makes.
On to the other side of the ball, adding some depth to the stacked linebacker room, Lewis Carter and Sammy Omosigo taking on larger defensive roles this year. In 2023, Carter split time at linebacker, Omosigo primarily at Cheetah, both having 7 tackles. The veterans have high hopes for the sophomores.
It makes me so happy. Those guys are going to be amazing players for the university. To see them, see their growth and be able to be part of that, I feel like a little proud dad in a sense of it. But I'm just excited for this group, man. We can obviously really just have a rotation throughout the games. Any player that comes in there, you're not going to see a drop in production. All these guys can play amazing football at high levels. I'm really excited.
The last time the SEC added new teams was back in 2012 when the conference brought in Texas A&M and Missouri. In their first 3 seasons of SEC ball, the Aggies had a 13-11 record, while the Tigers were 16-8. Now entering the SEC, head coach Brent Venables believes his team can compete right away.
We're excited for the challenge as competitors, as a football program. Oklahoma, isn't intimidated as a football program. We're running towards the SEC. I think that goes without saying. We've looked forward for the last several years for this partnership to be a part of an amazing conference, the best conference in college football.
Safety Billy Bowman returns for his senior season and has taken on a new role, being a more vocal leader in the defensive back room. And he knows how his leadership style affects his team.
I pride myself on doing the right things, being the first guy in everything I do. So when other people see those things, and from a guy who necessarily, I don't talk as much, but when I talk, I have a point and I'm trying to get it across, you take it seriously. So just having a different type of attitude, mindset, and leading by example is how I like to lead.
There's no school today, but these Sooners aren't taking the day off. Our Abby Williams caught up with some OU students and a Campus Corner favorite to see how people plan to spend the day.
That's right, Kaylee Jo. Friday Night Lights in Norman means more than just tailgates and touchdowns. When we come back, I'll have how some Sooners are celebrating.
spending my game day covering the game, but Gameday U reporter Abby Williams got some insight into how some other students are spending it. Abby, how does this Friday kickoff shake things up?
Kaylee, Joe, most of these Sooners are treating this Friday kickoff no different than a Saturday game. Here's my story on how they'll feel about this historic Friday night game.
School's off, we're going to have some fun, and we're going to beat Temple.
Friday night lights at the Palace.
Tailgating, got to stop by all that. Campus Corner is always fun. They always have tents giving out things, so just being out and about I think is the most important thing.
Most OU students plan to cheer on their team at the Sooners season opener, but how do they feel about the game being on a Friday?
Friday's the start of the weekend, so I think it's a good excuse to not have class.
I'm excited for the Temple game to be on Friday because it means that I'm going to be sleeping in very late. I'm going to be preparing for the game very late.
I like it because we get the day off class and then we get an extra long weekend too, and it's clutch because we have Labor Day, so it's pretty much a 4-day weekend.
But not everyone likes the change.
Why make it a Friday when I can have it on a Saturday night?
One Campus Corner business is welcoming the excitement of the Friday night lights.
So we've talked about doing like some different specials. We're in talks about possibly doing seltzer buckets or beer buckets to kind of drum things up for game day. We're going to keep things normal as we can. If we're able to facilitate power hour, obviously we'll do so, but it being a Friday game, it being a little earlier, I'm not sure if we'll be able to do that because there's going to be the clash of having students with also having people that are here for the game.
And it just gets better further into the season.
But we're going to do a few different things this season. We're talking about doing some mobile bars like on the back patio, like out front. They're talking about opening up liquor sales outside. So like having like a beer cart, things like that, kind of draw people in and be a little bit more a part of everything going on in Campus Corner whenever they kind of shut everything down for the game.
And despite that Friday kickoff, tailgating and Campus Corner aren't going anywhere. From in the studio, I'm Abby Williams, Gameday U. Kaylee, Joe.
Thanks, Abby. Well, it's one thing to be a national champion, but what about back-to-back-to-back-to-back? Gameday U reporter Britton Ross was at SEC Media Days, where he talked to Billy Bowman about what his fiance's rings mean to him.
Oklahoma's defense improved in year 2 under head coach Brent Venables, partially because of defensive back Billy Bowman leading the country in pick sixes. Now returning as a senior, Bowman says it's time to start winning some championships in order to catch up to his fiancée, Jada Coleman, a 4-time softball national champion.
It's very exciting, because it's really real, But it's going to be a fun season to enjoy, and we're ready for it. Winning 50 conference championships, the most of college football, is very eye-opening. Going to 4 college football playoffs is something that I haven't done, so I want to reach that goal. And then ultimately this defense, a lot of experience coming back. A lot of young guys who are elite have came in eager to learn, and we're just ready to get the show on the road and make that jump again. I'm definitely ready to prove it, but right now we got progress to make, finishing up the summer right now and then going to fall camp, and we'll perfect our craft right there and then be ready for the season. I'm definitely ready to cut into that lead. That is the goal. What she and her team has done is incredible, You don't come around that too often, but yes, I definitely need to cut into that lead for sure.
Bowman was second in the country with 6 interceptions in 2023, and he looks to improve on that this season. Reporting from SEC Media Days in Dallas, I'm Britton Ross.
Thanks, Britton. Speaking of winning, Oklahoma has won 18 straight home openers. Stick with us because when we return, we'll look at the opponent flying into town attempting to break this streak. Welcome back, and give a warm welcome back to Sooners starting quarterback Jackson Arnold. You last saw his first career start against Arizona. You'll now see his first career start in the SEC in a few weeks. I was at SEC Media Days in July, where I got to hear how the QB feels in this new role. Will Oklahoma survive the SEC? It's the question on most college fans' minds. At SEC Media Days, new starting quarterback Jackson Arnold made it clear he's ready to suit up, lace up his cleats, and put on his helmet.
We're going to take it 1 week at a time, but I think me and the boys have been working hard this offseason, been grinding, and I'm super excited for the fall. Obviously, you never know how things are going to play out, but I always knew that I wanted to start for this school while we were playing in the SEC.
This guy leads this offense, and being on the other side of it, didn't really see that. But now waking up today, 6 a.m., he's the first guy in there getting everyone going, kind of being that motivation, that spark plug that the offense needs. There's no doubt in my mind that he's everything that we need.
Jackson understands, better than anybody what goes into being a quarterback of a football team, of a locker room, the leader, the face, the responsibilities, the challenges. What I feel best about and have the most peace about is his ability to be able to handle the highs and the lows, the challenges, the success, the failure that a season will bring you.
Arnold and the Sooners face their first SEC test against Tennessee. Reporting from inside of SEC Media Days, I'm Kaylee Jo Hommel. From a starter looking to prove himself to an opponent that's had some trouble naming a starting QB, OU takes on Temple, and on paper, this seems like an uneven matchup.
I'm right with you, Kaylee Jo. Temple hasn't had the best resume recently, losing every road game the past 2 seasons. Walking into an electric Sooner Stadium that hasn't seen a home opener loss since 2005, not too promising.
Yeah, and the Owls finished in the bottom half of total offense last season, averaging just over 370 yards per game. Temple only scored 14 points in their 3 games against Power 4 conference schools last year. The Sooners D should have no issues with the Owls.
Look, Aiden, the biggest question mark on this OU squad is the offensive line. But given that Temple was nearly dead last in rushing defense last year, ranked 124th out of 130 schools, the Sooners should have their way in the run game tonight.
Well, let's switch over to SEC because there's a whole lot more to break down because in this conference, it just means more. Emily, what does the rest of the conference look like in week 1?
It's looking like a tough start for the top dog, or bulldog I should say, Georgia, taking on number 14 Clemson. These teams claim 4 of the last 8 national titles, and that was when Venables was on the Tiger staff. A win tomorrow could really benefit down the road.
It's also a new era in college football. Kalen DeBoer's taken over as head coach following Nick Saban's retirement as the Crimson Tide host the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers tomorrow at 6 p.m. DeBoer led Washington to the playoffs last season behind the 13th best offense in college football.
The Florida Gators are limping into the season on a 5-game losing streak, and they start off against a ranked Miami Hurricane squad this afternoon. Their gauntlet of a schedule doesn't get any easier with head coach Billy Napier on the hot seat, and Kaylee, I don't even think he'll make it through this season.
Well, Britton, Oklahoma doesn't face its first SEC test until week 4, but have no fear, Sooner football will still be showing off their SEC prep team. Stay with us because next we'll be talking about who and what to watch for tonight. Welcome back. The last time the Owls flew into Norman was 1940 and OU won 9-6. There's a whole lot more to break down ahead of Oklahoma's upcoming tango with Temple. And I want to start with a position taking on a bigger role in the OU offense, the tight ends. Last season, the tight ends totaled 2 touchdowns. You heard that right, 2. Eyes are on Gaylord transfer Jake Roberts and Southwestern Louisiana transfer Bauer Sharp. Sharp scored 3 receiving TDs and 5 rushing last season. And don't forget about freshman Davon Mitchell. The former 4-star was the 13th ranked tight end in the 2024 recruiting class by 24/7 Sports. So what does this all mean? This room is deep and you'll be seeing a whole lot more of it.
You won't be seeing a whole lot more of linemen as OU lost all 5 primary offensive line starters, so BV has been working the portal. UNT transfer right here, Fabechi Wiwu, helped set school rushing records with the Mean Green. Branson Hickman right here transferred from SMU after the spring game, but is already on the watch list for the best center in college football. Now you're seeing USC transfer Michael Tarquin. He has good size, 6'6", 317 pounds, establishing himself as a solid left tackle. OU breeds great linemen. They recently got a 5-star commit, and Sooner product Creed Humphrey is now the highest paid center in NFL history.
Yeah, Emily, you talked a lot about transfers. The Sooners signed a top 10 high school recruiting class as well, and some of those freshmen look ready to make an impact early on. 5-star David Stone is the highest rated defensive line recruit the Sooners have landed since DeMarcus Granger in 2005. I was 6 months old. Four-star Danny Okoye from Tulsa joins Stone on that line as well, but they're not alone. Redshirt freshman Caleb Hicks is from the 2023 class, but should see an increased role this fall with Tawi Walker's departure to Wisconsin. The youth the Sooners possess can go a long way and provide competitive depth.
Speaking of newcomers, Aiden, wide receiver and Purdue transfer Deion Burks made a loud appearance in the spring game, catching 2 touchdown passes from Jackson Arnold with 174 yards on just 5 receptions. His ability to take the top off of defenses is something that the Sooners have been lacking in recent years. He led Purdue in receiving last year with over 600 yards and 7 touchdowns. And given what we saw in the spring game, Kaylee Jo, I think we can expect a massive year from Deion Burks in the Sooners' first season in the SEC.
I totally agree with you, Britton. I mean, I feel like I sound like a broken record at this point. But when we come back, it is time for my favorite part of the show. We'll have a new set of analysts ready to give their Week 1 picks. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the last, but certainly not the least, segment of Game Day U Pick'ems. We have some fresh faces on the set, ready to give their picks for some of the country's hottest matchups. Joined with me now are Hallie McPherson, Cam Williams, and Andrew West. The last time Clemson and Georgia met in 2021, the Bulldogs went on to win their first national championship in 41 years. Do the Tigers have what it takes to take down what could be the next college football dynasty?
Georgia did not lose a home game last season, and I don't see it happening this season. Coming off an SEC championship loss to Alabama, I think the Dogs will unleash at home. Cam, who are you with?
Hallie, I'd have to agree with you. Starting quarterback and Heisman Trophy candidate Carson Beck was one of the tops in the country last year in total completion percentage, sitting at 72.4%. I think he continues that trend versus Clemson.
Guys, there's a reason Bulldogs have a short lifespan, and I'll say the same about the so-called dynasty in Athens. Georgia may speed by everyone else, but I'm taking Dabo's Tigers to walk into Mercedes-Benz Stadium and beat the Dogs for the first time since 2013.
Hot take from Andrew on that, but the West Coast and Bayou are a lot more similar than you may think. USC and LSU enter the crucial third year with their head coaches, but who can best replace a Heisman-winning quarterback?
You and I both know Lincoln Riley doesn't want the smoke. I'm going with LSU pulling out the win in Sin City. USC has a lot more rebuilding to do after finishing 116th in total defense in the country. Cam, how do you feel?
Hallie, right on point. Quite honestly, I see LSU winning fairly easily. With Riley losing a generational talent like Caleb Williams, I don't see him beating a defense with stud LSU linebacker Harold Perkins at the helm.
Y'all starting 0-2. Listen, Lincoln Riley's job is on the line, and he knows it. A win can set the tone for the season, and quarterback Miller Moss is coming off a performance of 6 touchdowns against Louisville, who had a defense ranked 85 spots higher than LSU's. Brian Kelly's Southern accent won't save the Tigers Sunday. Give me USC.
Now, I'm not much of a video gamer, but EA Sports College Football ranks Kyle Field as the toughest place to play. Will the Fighting Irish be able to play like a champion in the home of the 12th man?
Y'all know Kyle Field, home of the 12th man, is one of the hardest environments to win in. Mike Elko, new head coach of the Aggies, is going to steal the win for his first game. My bets are on the Aggies for this one. Cam?
Unfortunately, Hallie, I'm not with you on this one. Former Duke quarterback and current QB for the Irish, Riley Leonard is going up against his old coach at Duke and Mike Elko. I think Riley puts on a show in College Station and spoils Elko's debut.
Cam, you are one smart cookie. While it might be the house Johnny Manziel built, Johnny Football hasn't been there in 11 years. And the NIL money may buy recruits, but it ain't buying wins. I'm taking touchdown Jesus and the Fighting Irish to kick off year 3 of the Freeman era.
Finally, one I can agree with you on, Andrew. And of course, we can't forget about tonight's Sooner season opener. Hallie, are the Friday night lights going to be too bright for OU?
I have more than a good feeling about the Sooners for this one. Oklahoma hasn't lost a season opener since 2016. I think OU's defense and offense will put on a show in the Palace, opening up in the SEC. Who are y'all going with?
I've got OU. I got the Sooners steamrolling the Temple Owls in the Palace. I really don't see Temple's 124th ranked defense from a year ago being able to stop the likes of Nick Anderson, Deion Burks, and Angelo Anthony in the passing game.
Listen, there's not much to say here. As a betting man, the question shouldn't be whether or not the Sooners beat Temple, but will they cover the spread? Vegas has the spread hovering around 42.5, and you best believe I'm taking the over to kick off year 1 in the SEC.
Well, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching Game Day U. For Hallie McPherson, Cam Williams, and Andrew West, I'm Kaylee Jo Hommel. Have a fun, football-filled Friday night.